Welcome to the Cool Fireman Podcast, a virtual firehouse kitchen table with Matt, Adam, Brian, Doug, and Freddie, where they discuss everything that matters in today's fire service. Now let's get to the show.
I'm going to need you to go ahead and come in Saturday.
Need you to show up on Saturday. Yeah.
I see nothing wrong with that. That'd be great. Thanks.
Doug, did you go to my closet? Because we match.
I did not, but I got my box today when I got home, so shout out Burn Box.
Shout out to the Burn Box.
And shout out to
shout out. All right. Welcome back to the Cool Fireman Podcast, folks. Welcome times three. You've got Matt. You've got Doug. I think Freddie's coming in from an MVA 1055 Niner. He's on his way back, whatever that means. From a TC. He's come back from a TC, the traffic collision. Because it ain't an accident. Somebody's fault, says Doug.
They're not an accident.
Yeah.
I see nothing wrong with your thought process.
Freddie might be coming here. And then we have a familiar face. Very familiar. It's a beautiful face. Greg Rudiger from Resilient Another Day, from the podcast, the Radcast. What's up, Gregory?
Hi, Maddie. Hello,
Hi.
One of our early guests of the show.
What's up?
Yeah,
Call this a boomerang. Send him out. He's gone and did great things. Now he's come back.
What episode was it, Greg?
I love it. Episode 75.
Yeah.
Ooh, so
that was
about
pretty
halfway.
Yeah.
Because this is 145. So, yeah. So welcome back, everybody. We're going to get into it with Greg. We're going to talk about some resilience and some health and wellness stuff. What I really wanted to tackle was we do have a lot of newer or can't wait to be firefighters. And it's, it goes along with the mental health aspect of the job and, the fact that firemen are killing themselves. And that is a true statement. And we haven't done a very good job, in my opinion, of informing the new lads and gals of this reality and why this is happening. And this should be in fire academies across the country. We should be talking about this to our new folks, not just to the guys that are all of a sudden having these problems 20 years into their career running 911 calls, having, divorce problems and all that other stuff. We should be talking to the young lads. So I'd love to do that today. And that's going to be the main. That's going to be the main deal. But a little housekeeping first.
Folks, it's time for housekeeping.
All right. So housekeeping, Patreon is up, right, Douglas? What do we got?
Patreon is booming. We have 12 Patreon members, which is awesome. I think we had 6 or 7 join recently in the last few days, maybe a week.
It's 12 more than we started with.
We wish you all were paid. You'd be getting some special access stuff, and we'd be giving away some more free stuff or some free stuff when we get a few more paid folks. We're going to give away free stuff probably once a month-ish. We might even toss around the idea of, with Riverside, the platform we use to record the podcast, we're able to live stream that. So we might toss around the idea of putting a link on there for Patreon subscribers to literally watch the podcast as it gets recorded. So you wouldn't have to wait until Monday to hear it. You'd actually see it as it happens. And you'd basically be a guest of the show in silence, maybe. I'm not sure if it'd be like watching the YouTube live or something,
Yeah.
But you probably have a chat box in there that you could probably chime in with. Yeah.
I think that's what it is. So we have a couple of brand new subscribers. Do we have their names that we can shout them out?
Yeah. Let me pop this open. Tyler Carson just became a free member. Tyler Adams, Tyler everybody, all the Tylers, all the Tylers. Oh Jesus,
it was
that's
Tyler
the
month.
It was also Jesus
and Sophia
and Jesus.
Yes.
Jesus.
Shout out to our newest paid subscriber. I think we talked about this last week. Social FD, met him at FDIC last year. That's awesome. We need to get him on here.
Yes.
Yeah, he needs
to talk
100%.
about that at the FDIC last year. So it's been almost a year since he and I talked about that. We need to make that happen.
We need to make that a reality. So and just remember that if you are a subscriber of any tier, you can email us if you got some cool topics for us to talk about on the Cool Fireman Podcast. And, we're always looking for new things to talk about. And so it'd be great to get a little engagement from our listeners about what to talk about. I mean, we have 145 episodes in. We can only talk so much about, certain things in the fire service. So, but I think it'd be great to take some topics from our listeners. So, merch, new flagship shirt.
Yes.
What up? Yep, $24.99 plus some taxes and fees and whatever else. But I don't know. Let me see if I can get the back of it.
Yeah,
there you go. Yeah. So we got sweatshirts, hats, t-shirts, long sleeves, hoodies. We're gonna have some more stuff. We've got some specialty like Sorry Rhett t-shirts. We got the little Budweiser logo, the Cracker Barrel logo. We've got some really good stuff up there. So check it out. I will announce a 15% discount if you order. I think it's within like the next couple of weeks. Episode 144, all one word. Episode 144. It's from our last episode, but it'll pertain to you. If you are listening to this podcast and you want some merch, you get 15% off. So thank you for that. Sponsors. We are always looking for new sponsors. If you'd like a sponsored ad within the Cool Firearm podcast, let us know. But for now, we have our two beautiful sponsors. Unky's Seasoning, which Unky is not here today. He is something with a raccoon.
A lot of raccoon issues down there.
Yeah. Stole a police vest and now he's demanding Pop-Tarts, and it's quite a messy situation over there.
It's a quagmire, if you will.
His last update. So, it was had to deal with a raccoon. He said the last update was negotiations have stalled. The raccoon is now demanding snacks and diplomatic immunity. Command is considering a trade involving 2 Pop-Tarts, a reflective vest. And he says he remains on the perimeter waiting further instructions. Recording remains delayed pending treaty talks.
All right.
Treaty.
There you go.
Treaty talks.
So, So Adam's not here due to treaty talks with the Pop-Tarts and everything else. So they thought we were joking, but it's actually a real thing. So let's roll a quick promo for Unky's Seasonings.
From the firehouse to your house, Unky's Seasoning packs bold, firehouse-tested flavor into every meal. Whether you're grilling, roasting, or just sprinkling it on your favorite snacks, our blends turn everyday eats into unforgettable bites. Pick your flavor, shake it on, and taste why it's firehouse approved. Go to unkeyseasoning.com.
All right. Those would go really well with anything you're eating on Super Bowl, folks. Having a Super Bowl party myself. Wish you were all here, but you're not. And then Tom at the Burn Box and FD Collectors Club, you guys just got yours. You're wearing your hoodies. Look at you. Big City Fred. Just kidding. What is this? What does BCF stand for?
Blue Collar Fireman.
Okay. Everybody at once. Blue Collar Fireman.
Yeah. Pretty sick box
California,
this month.
I'm pretty sure.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got a nice sweatshirt, you got a nice hoodie, you got a face piece bag. That's a really nice, got reflective chevron on it, and we got a pair of suspenders.
Oh,
turnout suspenders.
We have a face piece holder on my boob, like on my turnout jacket.
This one has a couple
like
of loops in it, but it also has a lobster claw clip at the top of it. So you can clip it right here, and it stays encased in the bag, and it opens up on the top and partially on the side. It's really nice. I've got one now, but I don't keep it on my face piece. I've got my buddy who makes helmet fronts made me a leather face piece cover. I keep on mine. Yeah. I don't keep it in the bag.
All right.
But I made with this new bag. It's very handy. If
you're on the fence of ordering your first Burn Box subscription, jump off the fence. And not literally, just get off the fence and order it. You won't be disappointed. And yell at Tom from the Burn Box that the Cool Fireman podcast sent you.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this box was like $160 value, something like that. It was a really insane amount of money. Yeah, it
was nuts. So the other day, some folks came into my office, a brand new captain, and when he did, he saw the cutters we had in last month's box, and I was telling him about Burn Box. And that's why I sent the text and to you guys the other day. And they were like, wow, that's crazy. All that stuff you get in the box. And so he was literally going to sign up right then and there because he was blown away at how much you got for that price.
Mm-hmm.
I got two of my students in the medic class that signed up for it recently.
Nice. Brian was blown away by how much he could fit in the box. All right.
Easy.
Let's do a
Easy.
promo. Sorry, Rhett, for Bird Box.
Brought to you by the Burn Box, the #1 firefighter subscription box. The Burn Box celebrates firefighter products and firefighter-owned and operated businesses. Start today and receive a monthly box of firefighter apparel, gear, and tools. Check them out at theburnbox.com.
Hey,
All right,
easy.
folks.
Matt,
When you do
easy.
your moment
Jesus
of-
is listening.
Hey,
Yeah, watch out,
This is the
Jesus.
cool Fireman podcast. You don't know what's going to happen.
Let
When
me
you
tell
do
it-
that moment,
Can I tell a quick story about Jesus? Not
Nope.
the Jesus that follows Patreon. When I moved, may I?
Our Lord and Savior.
Okay, close. Let me tell a story. So I came from the correctional industry, right? And a buddy of mine who was my chief of security here in Virginia, when the facility closed, he transferred to Colorado. I ended up going to work there for him. And when I got there, he took me on a tour and whatnot. We're going through the segregation unit, and there was this guy in there named Jesus, whatever it was. Big Latino population in Colorado. So he said, I start talking to this guy, and I'm like, I'm getting in this guy's ass. Who the fuck names their kid Jesus? There's only one Jesus, blah, blah, blah. He was like, sir, it's Jesus. He was like, what? Apparently he was too stupid to understand that I was a Latino thing. But anyway, it was a funny story at the time. Maybe it's not funny now. I don't know. It was funny.
Are you sure?
It was pretty
Funny
funny.
story, Doug.
It was funny to me. I mean, whatever. Somebody.
No, it was
laugh.
great.
hilarious.
I laughed when
You guys.
I laughed
you
a
guys.
little bit.
You guys didn't laugh. Whatever.
No, I did.
I was still thinking about how Matt needs to ask for a little forgiveness during that moment of silence.
So we do a moment of silence every episode on the Cool Fireman podcast. I don't know how I missed that.
I don't know how you did either.
My fault. I'm not feeling good. I woke up sick yesterday and I am under the weather, so I'm seeing cross-eyed right now. I'm doing the best I can, people. So a moment of silence. I had something for it too, and I just totally blanked on what it was. But I don't. I know what it was. So I didn't tell you guys this. Need thoughts and prayers. I didn't tell you this either, Greg. For our fire department. The other day, Sunday morning. What's today? Monday. Yesterday morning at 8 a.m. We had an ambulance ride along as an EMT ride along. Walked downstairs into the app bay and found our firefighter on the floor unconscious.
Oh no.
I know. So I saw this text that went out and it said, hey, we have a prayer group at work. And it says, hey, we have one of our members go down. Or not go down, just said like get injured. And, we need prayers and thoughts, but due to, basically like, HIPAA rights or whatever, I'm not going to say what it is or who it is, even though it's our own guy. Anyway, I just didn't really think anything of it. I went on to telestaff. I saw who it was. And I was like, oh, it's one of our probationary firemen. And this guy's a stud. Absolute stud. And so I'm like, oh, maybe he like twisted his knee or hurt his elbow. Well, come to find out, we don't know the whole story because he doesn't even remember. But it was right around the time when we log in our MDCs in the morning, and he fell out of the rig somehow, some way, hit his head, skull fracture in the front of his head, brain bleed in the rear. Thankfully, the follow-up CT showed that the brain bleed slowed and stopped itself and basically dissipated itself. He doesn't have any deficits that I know of as of now. He's still pretty groggy and not doing too well. He was ×1, only answering one question when they got down because the EMT ran upstairs and said, hey, your fireman on the ground. So this isn't a moment of silence for someone that's passed away. Thank the Lord. But our prayers have been answered. And, we have a prayer group that prays hard at work. And so it could have been a lot worse and it still can. I mean, he's still in the ICU at Mission Hospital, which is our big trauma center. And so he's up in the ICU right now. So just thoughts and prayers for our guy, Eric. And, but yeah, I don't have anybody line of duty deaths or anything unless you guys have something to add. All right. Mm-mm. So let's give a quick moment of silence and thoughts and prayers for Eric. All right.
T's and P's, Eric.
Yes. T's and P's. Thank you for that. And I can't believe I forgot because I even had my own guy that I was going to talk about. My goodness.
You
All
didn't
right.
forget.
So, well, no, I was gently reminded.
Well, my Jesus rant kind of got in the way, but
yeah, that's okay. Your story, your Latino story. So we're here talking to Greg. Greg, thank you for your coming on and
Hi, Greg.
spending the time with us here at the Cool Fireman. You are always invited. We love Gregory. So since you were with us on episode 75, I've done some great stuff, gone out to some conferences, had some, did some speaking to the peeps, and started a podcast yourself, in which I help you co-host most of the time, called the Radcast. But yeah, I just want to get you on here. We're talking about, we talked about cancer last week, and one of the things that retired Captain Scott Jenny said with us was, cancer and mental health go hand in hand. A lot of people in the fire service, a lot of guys, gals in the fire service, are dealing with mental health, whether they know it or not. And then you add this unsuspected cancer diagnosis, and it's like, whoa, what just happened? And so I thought it would be fitting. We all talked about it and said, hey, let's get Gregory on. We've been trying to get you on forever, but I think this is a good segue this week just because of what we talked about last week. So thanks for coming on, dude. It's amazing to have you.
Guys. Dude, I'm stoked to be back on. Hi, Freddie.
Hey,
You weren't on
nice
the
to
last
meet
time.
you. Looks like we have you every
You too, buddy.
70-ish episodes.
Okay,
So we'll see you
I'll mark
around
my calendar.
we'll see you around 210.
Perfect.
No, we're going to get him on before that.
No, I'm stoked to be back on here. Thank you.
Heck yeah. But I had kind of already mentioned a little bit of what we want to talk about, about the guys and gals that are starting the fire academy or even thinking about getting into this profession. They stumble across the Cool Fireman podcast somehow, and they listen to us dopey guys sitting around the kitchen table talking fun and all this stuff. But there is a little bit of a darker side to the first responder world. And, whether you're an ambulance guy or you're a fireman or whatever rank, dispatchers, man, they go through their own mental health stuff. But I just thought it would be awesome if we could figure out some way to get to these young guys and gals to talk to them about, the awareness of mental health problems that you can have in this job. So, but I mean, as far as that goes, like, is there anything is there like part of what you talk about, Greg? Is there, does that fit in anywhere? Does that make sense to do that? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, what we have been doing is taking more of a proactive approach. So in my role, not only as a captain of health and safety, but obviously I've evolved in my purpose and the calling that God's put on my heart as someone diagnosed with PTSD. And it's not a disorder for everybody out there. It is not. It's a non-traumatic traumatic brain injury that occurs with the neural pathways. I'm a recovering alcoholic. I'm over almost 2.5 years sober. Suicidal ideations, almost was taking and attempting. Thank you. Was attempting actively looking to kill myself a couple of times, and working through those issues in suicide prevention and the resiliency aspect of it. And I related back to, as I teach firefighter survival in the Phoenix study, 75% of our training should be on how to stay out of the bad stuff. And then 25% of the training is the self-survival techniques. So I said, well, why are we not applying that to the mental health world? Why are we not spending 75% of our training on the prevention aspect of building resiliency, of building awareness, of giving tools ahead of time, like I talked about on the last time I was on, with the trampoline analogy of tightening those springs so that we get less hit, but a much tighter recoil so that we rebound better, stronger, and more fitting. And so that's kind of been the purpose and the direction we've been going as a captain of health and safety, in the direction that my organization and our county and state are moving to. But also in what I'm doing on the side with Resilient Another Day and in the podcast is, let's get ahead of it. If we can change the stigma of talking about it, and we can make the cultural acceptance of I'm struggling, we can get the help without stuffing it down into the basement. And so some of the things we're doing is we're actually in the fire academy. No coincidences. Matt and I are taking that out of the dictionary, that word coincidence. Tomorrow, I speak to our new recruits in pre-academy on peer support. We get them signed up with our Peer Connect app. We give them an outline of what it is, and then we cover the stress continuum. So we go through the stress continuum, the 4 colors. And so the blue, green, yellow, orange, and red, so that we're now speaking a common language before they even start. We give them the tools. We give them the resources ahead of time. We talk about some resiliency aspects. I take them through some guided breath work. We do some mindfulness. We do some purposeful movement. So they're already going to have tools going into it. Plus, the other thing that we know, Psychology 101, is if we tell you what's going to happen ahead of time, the mind and the body are more apt to continue through it knowing that. So we tell them the academy is going to be tremendously stressful. It's going to be something maybe you've never been through it before. It's going to be taxing on you, your family. You need to have this terminology, and we try to share it with the family as well. So we're bringing those things into an academy setting. And in the academy, we do mindfulness and performance and breath work as part of their academy curriculum, so that they're getting these tools as they move through. And then after the academy, we come back in post-academy. We do some more touches on how was it, what works for you. Now you're going to the streets. Let's take it to the next level of what it's like with, now we dive into sleep hygiene, exercise, nutrition. How are we taking care of ourselves while we're doing that, a work-life balance? What can we do for their families so that they have that support once they hit the street, and what we're seeing. And it's coming with tremendous success. And it's really interesting because we just had a change of command ceremony at work. We went from one fire chief to another. And it's interesting because the chief that was going out, very old school, 40 years, worked in the Coast Guard, the military. And he's even said, like, I'm just old school. I can't do what you do. Speaking about it and that stuff, that's not how we handled it back in the day. I handled it a different way, much like my dad and my grandfather did. The interesting thing was, as he went through the chief's interview, most of the new people that we're hiring, this new generation, this is kind of built into them. They have this kind of acceptance of what this is, and it's nomenclature, and it's known, and it's not this big scary thing. What we're doing is trying to now implement that into, how does that assimilate into the fire service, which is very taxing physically, emotionally, and spiritually on you, and get them to look at it as a career. Because a lot of people, what we look at as our lifestyle, it's a career, it's a life's calling. What we're seeing now is some of them are coming in like, oh, this is cool. I want to ride a rig for a few years and then I want to go do something else. And so it's a really, really unique challenge in what we're seeing with it. But by and large, absolutely, the preventative aspect for them coming in, we're laying a groundwork. So instead of just doing all these hose stretches so we can call out the same terminology, they can come into the captain's office and say, hey, Cap, that was a tough one. You know, I think I'm in orange, or hey, I'm struggling at home. And then it's known, it's accepted, and we can go ahead and get them the resources they need.
Dude,
I love that. I love that you're doing it to the recruits, and more so that you're including their families in that. That is, I think, the key to it, is getting the families to buy in and understand the struggles of what has to happen, or what does happen, on a day-to-day basis for guys and girls on shift.
Yeah,
correct.
I wanted to chime in because I don't want to leave the old school chief mentality, because before we hit record, I said I had seen something today. I call those God winks, that I wanted to blend it in, because as I was scrolling, having my breakfast after I had my quiet time, my my devotion, which was about strength, which I really loved today. It talked about this one came up, and it was the daughter of a first responder, specifically a firefighter, who talked about, she's a psychotherapist. So she got her degree. If you want to follow her on socials, for everybody, it's Therapist Sid on TikTok. That's just the way it works. I don't know. But anyway, she posted this back in July, and it was photos. And the last photo, and I want to read this. I said I was going to read it. Is she says, what I found out as a psychotherapist studying for first responders. And I'm going to read this and I'm going to go to the comments, because I went to the comments to see what people said, if they agreed with this or not. And because I knew what I felt and I wanted to go from there. So the pictures said, why first responders always stay busy. It's not about ambition. It's about protection. Busy keeps the pain quiet. Busy keeps the nightmares at bay. Busy means you don't have to sit with the weight of what you've seen, the faces you remember but never talk about, the guilt you carry but never name. Stillness is dangerous because when things slow down, the body remembers. So fill your time, your calendar, your mind with anything but that. But not because you're fine, but because busy is the only thing that ever made the weight bearable. So I'm going to pause about what I thought. And I went immediately to the comments. And I'm not going to give this guy, I don't want to say the justice or whatever, because I'm not saying I don't agree with him or disagree with him. I'm going to go back and say that he reminds me a lot of the old chief that you talked about, or your dad or your granddad, or even how sometimes I feel. He said, I've been a fireman for 23 years and I stay busy because I'm industrious, not because of trauma. Maybe I'm an outlier. Seeing terrible stuff, he used another 4-letter word, happens every day. The poor me victim attitude that's so in style now dilutes the help for people who actually do need it. And so that put me in a different place, because I'm going to share how it helped me, or different, it dealt with me different. So I had run a lot of fire fatalities, and a good friend of mine who had went through some mental health training came to me one day and he looked at me and he said, are you okay? And I said, yeah, I'm fine. What do you mean? He goes, no, I want to know, like, par check to each other. Like, are you cool? And I was like, yeah, I'm cool. And he said, well, one day you may wake up and you're not, and I just want to make sure that you're okay today. And I was like, all right. And I think that's, and for me, I think that's the difference, is for someone like this. And Greg, I think you kind of alluded to it, like one day you were fine, and then I think maybe it was different. And I don't know if you want to share that. So for the older folks that are listening to this, the me's in here that are like really struggling of how it's not just normal, right? How the career and how writing, how for that guy who's been there 23 years versus the new normal, right? Like, how do we bridge that? Because these guys and ladies are riding together on the rig. So when that person goes in and says, hey, I've had a, whatever, and they walk out, I don't want them to subconsciously have someone that's sitting there going, just suck it up, right? Because that's how they feel. This guy had the ability to put it out there, maybe what a lot of people are thinking. So why is it that those two things are connected but so far apart?
You've got to lead with love. And when we change our perspective, and for me, I just talked about it on my podcast, the Joby Martin, 1 Corinthians 16:13. Be watchful, stand firm, act like men, be strong. Let all that you do be done in love. It's really interesting that she says that, of staying busy. Just stay busy. It takes the weight away. There's other people where you need to have the stillness in it. When we lead with love, because my blessing was my curse. I'm third generation, like we talked about before, with a dad, a grandfather, 2 brothers, third generation captain. I was leading that firehouse in that more old school, suck it up, John Wayne, John Rambo, let's just hit it head on, and this is what we do, and we're men, have a beer, suck it up. Not okay. The other side of it is what we're struggling with too now, is what I call the weaponization of mental health. And that I don't like who I work with, so I have PTS. We're never going to assume the boy that cries wolf. We're going to get them the help, and we're going to give them tools. So what I've tried to do in the work that I'm doing is to bridge that gap is it organically came up, and we didn't talk about it last time because it organically came up with my wife in what I'm doing. And just another analogy for RAD, Resilient Another Day, what my company's evolved into, but we call it the RAD way, is that you have to recognize the situation or the trigger, good or bad. You need to acknowledge and honor that emotion that you're feeling, and then you have a decision to make. How do you, because the 5 of us will all do it differently, how do you cope with that honoring and acknowledging it? And then it goes another step further as we work through this, in that you have a decision to make. I'm going to decide to honor and acknowledge, and then I can recognize that. And so this radical wave back and forth helps you to survive in those situations, because it's about the human heart. It's about that human experience. It's about what they have endured. And it comes down to just leading with love. If all we do is lead in love, then we have the patience and the kindness and the acceptance of that other person. For some people, staying busy, they're industrious. I got a friend. He's just a worker bee. That's what he likes to do. He doesn't like to sit still. He doesn't not like to sit still because he's hiding from the moment. That was me. I was hiding from it. In fact, to the point when, before I went through my last little struggle in my marriage, we're camping and my wife's like, just come sit down. But I'm raking, I'm sweeping, I'm doing the dishes, while my wife and kids are playing Quirkle and Uno. I can't be present because I was not comfortable in who I was. So it comes down to an individual of acknowledging the purpose and getting into their own human heart and saying, this is my purpose, this is my calling, this is who I am, and doing the internal work on themselves in order to get there. And then once we do that, we can recognize the counterpoint in the others to do that. Now, I disagree with her on some front, because the work that my wife has done in emotional release is that you have to honor and acknowledge that emotion, which means you have to stop. You have to be still. You have to get into that uncomfortableness. And to steal from one of my best friend and one of my 3, Matt Rolfe, I will tell you, there's no comfort in greatness. We have to learn to get uncomfortable. We have to be okay with sitting in the pain, because when we hide from it and we run from it, now it takes hold of us. When we can honor and acknowledge that emotions, if you do that 90 seconds, the emotion's gone. You can go back to what you do. That's why there's so many things, like I talked about last time, the octopus analogy of what do you do to do that? Because for me, sometimes breath work doesn't work. There's days where I'm in the sauna trying to just meditate, trying to pray, trying to hear God's voice. It doesn't work. Maybe I have to sing. Maybe I have to call Matt. Maybe I have to call somebody else. Maybe I've got to go for a run. Maybe I have to stretch. Maybe I got to go get in the ocean. And so those different tools, just like on the job, and this is what I tell the young guys, we have all these tools on the rim because you never know what you're going to use. And I tell the story of hay hooks. We had hay hooks on the rig. And everyone's like, why do we have hay hooks? Well, I was in Corona, and Norco had the horse capital of the world. You grab them. That was good for pulling mattresses out. Well, one day my buddy says, dude, we're getting rid of these hay hooks in Washington. And I go, wait a minute, I got a little trick for you. And I walked up to a double inward swinging door and put my foot on the one door and used the hay hooks to grab the tabs and popped it, door swung open. Now it's a forcible entry tool. So those tools, it's a great analogy for the fire service of the tools that we carry are useful in multitudes of situations, but it comes down to you. And Brian, how do we bridge the gap? We got to get to the human heart. You got to get away from old school, new school, and you got to deal with that person. And it comes down to active listening. It comes down to truly caring about what they're saying. And I'll tell you, there's a struggle. There's a struggle when somebody comes to me and my bullshit meter is pinning, but I have to hear them. I have to get them resources, and I give them the work that's need to be done in order to do it. And yes, it's frustrating sometimes when, they're going to fail probation and all of a sudden they white flag and I have PTS, I have mental health. Okay, hard pause. Let's get you the help we need and seek professional help, get you into the resiliency aspect, get you to a counselor, get you onto light duty. Let's see if we can get you back onto the job. We owe that to them. And then to me, the truth is going to always, the truth is the truth because it is, and it's going to rise to the top, and we're going to find out real quick what it is.
I think going back to the listen part, especially in the analogy of the old school, new school, is not just for mental health, but for all things. We talked about promotion lately. We talked about, we mentioned, actually Matt did. Well, one of the guests talked about leading with love, and then we had it in our mail call segment. And I think that we are so quick to respond and not to understand. And I think just in all aspects of life, we could truly learn from that. It's just pausing and listening to respond. I have another podcast as well, and some of the guests that were on just my last episode, I said, hey, don't worry about silence. The system will clean all that up. So if you want to listen to the word, or to the question and think about it before you respond, it's okay. Don't rush.
On that, Brian, don't be afraid. I love what you just said. Don't be afraid of the pause. Don't be afraid to put the pause in your episode. And Greg, you and I have talked about that. The pause is you're marinating.
Yeah. I don't edit my podcast, Brian, because it's a resiliency podcast. And what we're saying is not scripted. It's from the heart. We have notes, but that pause it's real. It's us. And I don't want the listeners to negate that in my struggle, in my peer support role, in my role as a husband, as a role as a father, as a role as a man, is that a lot of times I want to talk. And that's my problem a lot of my marriage is I keep talking about it, mansplaining. That's what I even said on my last episode. What I found works really good when I'm helping somebody, especially old school, myself, tell me more about that.
Yeah.
Or they'll say something and I just sit there. And I go back to that movie, the movie quote with Good Will Hunting. I love it. Mm-hmm. When Robin Williams just sits there for a couple of sessions with Matt Damon and doesn't say a word until he's comfortable to do it. When we lead with love and we ask and we know that person, well, tell me more about that. Be curious, not judgmental. And when you do that and then allow them the space, because sometimes they don't know. And that 90 seconds of honoring and acknowledging your emotion allows that to come out. Now, 90 seconds when you're in a peer support setting or when you're helping somebody, you're talking to your wife, feels like an eternity. And it's not easy. And I'm not good at it still. I try to do it. But boy, what a blessing it's been with people I've helped both old and new to just sit there and allow them time to marinate. And then usually they spit it up and they'll say something. And then I'm listening to what they're saying and I'm okay. Now it's my job as a trained peer supporter in that role. Now as a husband who's understanding my role that God's given me is to hear what my wife is saying. Not the words literally, but what is truly emotionally being said to me in that space. And then to give them that safe container to operate. And that to me is more beneficial than just telling somebody, oh, when you got pain, just get the wiggles out and go move it off. Maybe that works for you. It's everyone. It's different. I don't want to put it in a box.
And I know we had talked about the pause, the power of the pause. And we had talked about a lot of this was about firefighter suicide. And I loved the example that my father-in-law gave. And I think I even mentioned it on your last episode, is that when people are writing their own story, right? And God gives us that ability. We can either let him lead us in our story, or sometimes we can take the pen. He gives us that ability, is that they put an exclamation point where he wants us to put a comma, and so that happens in these moments of hurry and rush and stress, right? And there should be a comma, which really the comma shouldn't be all those things. It should really be a chance to what? Catch our breath, right? So for these first responders that are listening,
in grammar school that's what a comma is. It's a pause.
Yeah. It's not necessarily about adding all those things as much as it is to just give a pause. And to that point, they decide to be like, enough is enough. Bam, I'm done with this. And so in their story of life, they decide to put an exclamation point because they chose not to pause. They saw it as a run-on sentence instead, and it just became too much. They couldn't catch their breath. They didn't see the value in the pause.
Yeah. The value of the pause brings the audience. I mean, when you're talking about podcast context,
your
what
volume just went way up.
Oh, sorry. I don't know. It'll be fine on the back end. Anyway,
now.
the pause brings the audience in too, like from a podcast standpoint, because they're having a conversation with us. They just can't speak because they're on the other end of the radio. But I'll tell you, when I'm listening to either the Radcast or the Cool Fireman, when I'm listening to it over again, I'm behind the radio going, I want to be part of this conversation, even though I am. It's different doing a podcast and hitting record than it is to listen and want to be part of the conversation. Like 100%. But that pause that like Greg was just, I don't know, 15 minutes ago when you started to talk, like you paused for like a good 15 seconds, and it's giving people like an opportunity to think about what they think you're going to say. Right. And then you either corroborate it and you just, you kind of like say what they're thinking, or you teach them something. And it's greatness, So just going back to what you're talking about recognizing knowledge and deciding. And
I love that, by the way. I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I'll go back to...
And it relates so much to what we do in the fire service.
Oh, yeah.
On any fire scene or any TC or whatever it is, it's the same kind of principles. Like you don't have to, it's not just another random acronym. It's the same thing we do every day at work.
Yeah. And I wanted to do it in the context, Doug, like you're saying, it's very universal in the fire service, which is awesome. And I'll do it in the context of kind of bringing it back of, Greg said, no coincidences. I'm talking to an academy tomorrow. Like, okay, that doesn't surprise me. Bam. Right. But we're recognizing, you're saying like, where's the bridge, Brian? And you're saying you read that why first responders always stay busy thing. And we're now in 2026 recognizing that there's an issue because guys are dying. Guys are having these issues. Guys are getting divorced. We've seen the numbers. We have a huge sample rate now. And so we've recognized, some people have acknowledged that, some people haven't. There'll be people in the comments that go, oh, just toughen up, put some dirt on it. And then there's some people that have even gone as far as deciding to do something about it, become part of their peer support. Ask their guys how they're doing, do par checks. And that's the difference it's a different generation. Okay. And I've heard a lot, not just in the firehouse, but when you talk with your guys, like, oh, they're really pussifying men in this country. And there might be an aspect to this country where they kind of are, in my opinion. This is just my opinion, by some of the things they're teaching and allowing in schools and all this stuff. And it's like, no, like this is what a man is. Right. But I think it's a different generation. We've seen what is going on. We're recognizing it. And then right now on this podcast, we're acknowledging and we're deciding to talk about it and create awareness. And Greg is going out to Fire Academy, which I think is an amazing idea to hit that from the head. And it wasn't even really my remember the first time we talked, Greg, and I gave you some feedback about what Andrew said, one of my chiefs. He listened to it and he goes, hey, I really think that we need to hit these kids in the academy. Like that's what he brought up, one of my battalion chiefs, because like this stuff, this awareness of mental health problems and everything that comes with it, and so suicide and all that can possibly be stopped. Are we going to stop it all? No, it's always going to be an issue. Like it's always going to be a problem. But damn, if we could do something about it. And here we are sitting here as 5 grown ass men in the fire service. And talking about our feelings, really. I mean,
and I'll tell you, I ain't no pussy. Sorry, Rhett. Ain't no bitch in me.
Jesus is listening.
And I'll tell you. Well, he wasn't either. And that's a pretty good model of living that intention and through the pain and the suffering in order to fulfill your purpose. And being vulnerable, like I said, vulnerability equals validity. And my passion is to go out there and to do that and to share that and to help people bring awareness to their organizations here's the framework. Like I can, this is what I do now. I go out and I help departments build in a framework of resiliency, not only for their existing members, but for their new members. And then the program that I have helps bridge the gap. Because Doug, you said it so beautifully when you said it ties into everything in the fire service, size up in what we do. The key is that we recognize but we don't react.
Yeah.
And so that's the problem, is the volatility of immediately reacting and flying off the handle. How do you recognize without reacting? And it goes back to what Brian says, is you have to pause. You have to pause. And I paused, Matt, not to let the listener catch up. I paused because of what Brian asked me, and I wanted to internalize it. I wanted to feel that emotion so that I could speak from my heart. No different before you key the mic when you do a size up. You pause, get your thoughts together so that you recognize versus reacting. Yeah. And that is truly where my purpose and calling is. And I'm leading a men's group now and doing the Radcast and going down that direction of I'm honoring my purpose, that I am a connector of people. So I can bridge the old school that I've been through this, and yet I'm in touch with the new school, and I have a way of bridging that gap together. And a lot of it is, like you said, right? It's listening, it's having a conversation, it's being aware, it's honoring and acknowledging their emotions. As my wife would say, that's their truth, and that's what they're living in. And so their truth, we have to honor and acknowledge their truth and then help them through it. While at the same time, we empower them in this line of work, because this isn't underwater basket weaving. It is life or death. That we can still lead with love and tell them, this is the direction. We're giving you the tools because you're going to see things that would make a billy goat puke. How do you cope with that? Well, we're going to tighten the springs ahead of time. So when that does happen, you can just take a pause. We do a pause at work. We do a follow-up. We go we go detail unavailable to decon for cancer. Why are we not going detail unavailable to decon the mind? And so that's what we're doing, is taking those 15, 20 minute deliberate pauses to recognize, honor, and acknowledge those, and do something, whatever it is for you. And then we're seeing great results. I think we're starting to see the pendulum shift. But this is in one microcosm of, Southwest Washington, and I'm working at the state level, and the people that I get to touch, I share with that. So,
mark that
1.2 million firefighters. Yeah, I know, right? 1.2 million firefighters, or somewhat of that, give or take a couple percent there, that we're trying to reach. And like you just said, I'm in the Pacific Northwest, right? You're in Washington, and you're doing the best you can, but it's like, yeah, that's why we have these podcasts, spread awareness. And we've talked about it. We're just continuing a great conversation, and the conversation that needs to happen.
I was over here. If you saw me, I was kind of toned out, and I was toned out. I wasn't toned out. I was listening in, but I was multitasking, and I was doing it because, we talked about things that were generational, and I immediately went back to the thought process of some statistics that was recently shared with me during a church service about divorce rates, about the lack of attendance at church, some of these other things. So I'm going to unapologetically just share a Bible verse and a poem, because I think that that this generational issue is also due to a lack of relationship that's faith-based. And, I'm here for those reasons, to share some of this stuff. So Philippians 4:6-7 says, do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your heart and your mind in Christ Jesus. And so while I'm pulling up this other poem, I want to just go back and say that there was several times that I called my brothers on this podcast, and I shared with them some stressful times over the last 12 months of when stuff was happening. And I would sit there and I'd say, hey, this, you're my pressure cooker. You're my chance to kind of get some things off of my chest. And usually right before that would happen, usually during my devotion time, I would pray that God would take that stress away. And there's this old poem that I can remember being up in my grandmother's house, and it was called Footprints. Okay. And I could not remember it, but here's what it says. One night, a man had a dream. He dreamed he was walking along the beach with the Lord. Across the sky flashed scenes from his life. For each scene, he noticed 2 sets of footprints in the sand. One belonged to him and the other to the Lord. When the last scene of his life flashed before him, he looked back at the footprints in the sand. He noticed that many times along the path of his life, there was only 1 set of footprints. He also noticed that it happened at the very lowest and saddest times in his life. This really bothered him, and he questioned the Lord about it. Lord, you said that once I decided to follow you, you'd walk with me all the way. But I have noticed that during the most troublesome times in my life, there is only 1 set of footprints. I don't understand why I needed you most. You would leave me. The Lord replied, my precious, precious child, I love you, and I would never leave you during those times of trial and suffering. When you only see 1 set of footprints, it was then that I carried you. And so, again, if you go back to that Bible verse, that's what it is. He's picking you up. He's carrying you. Just as we carry each other in those moments, right, when we call. But in actuality, those are those moments. So whether it's Greg talking about how he has to go into the ocean or he decides to ground or whatever, those are the tools in the ways that God carries us. And I think that that's the beauty of these moments, right? These tools in the toolbox. That's what God gives us, is those ability to make it through those. That takes it from a 2 to 3 year thing that we do to a career, to our story, to our destiny. That's what makes it to where our generations of ancestors were able to do it, in my mind, at least anyways. It's because they had that foundation and what they built their life on. So I buy into it, but I don't, because I think if you try to do these things and yet you don't do step 1, which is to give it to him, it'll be too hard because you'll keep trying to go back and then it gets to a point where it's too hard to carry by yourself. And that's kind of just my 2 cents.
You're absolutely right. It's not your 2 cents. It's the truth. It's what we're told.
That was awesome, Brian. Thank you for doing that.
It's what we're told. And what I find is when I'm doing this and working with people with the 8 areas of wellness, the one that seems to be lacking when people have it is the spiritual aspect of the area of wellness. And a lot of people will tell me, no, I'm good. I'm not religious. I said, I didn't say being religious. It's spiritual. It's a faith-based spirituality. And yes, we are called to lead people to find their purpose, the God that lives within you, to lead them to that. But we do it with love. And when I tell them about, no, you have a spirit inside of you. It lives inside of you. That is your moral compass. And then when they ask, right, like bass fishing, it's just like a lure. Well, how do you do it? Well, again, I have my faith, family, and fun. I put my faith in God, in my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. I read my Bible, and I spend time with men who are like-minded in my faith. Then all of a sudden, people are like, oh, because I explained to them, let's get one thing straight. Jesus was not religious. He was the farthest thing from religious. In fact, he flipped the table over of the religious people because he was making a mockery. He was a spiritual leader of love. He is love. And when we lead with love and we get in touch with that faith, Brian, that's what we are truly missing. And when we incorporate that back in as men, as women, as human beings who are designed, who are beautifully and fearfully made in God's image with a one-of-one purpose, we acknowledge that, we honor it, and now the decision is, I'm going to go forth and conquer. And there's one thing I want to encourage you with, is that when we pray, and this is what I tell people, when you're asking for strength, when you're praying for this to be taken away, no, you're going to get more. When you pray for strength, he's going to put another rock in your backpack. When you ask for patience, I'm going to get another driver going 55 in the carpool lane. I'm going to be challenged with it because we know that the evil, the devil, strikes at us. He's a roaring lion seeking to lie, kill, seek, and destroy what we're doing. We need to honor and acknowledge those feelings because they're a testament of what's made up inside of us, and it's how we function. And when we do that, I think we get to the human aspect. And to bring it back to what you were talking about earlier, I think it bridges the gap from old and young, and it puts us back into a human component of faith that when you look at it, it comes back to love, and a love that is patient and kind, that endures all, that bears all, that withstands all, and that never ends. And that is truly how I have reshaped what we're doing. And that's how we save human beings.
Amen.
Seriously.
Amen.
I
I wanted to touch on something real quick that Brian had said earlier about like slowing down and stuff. And I think a lot of us do that because you don't want to sit down and be alone with your thoughts. So you occupy your time, like you were saying, like you were raking instead of playing Uno with your family. And I think that the first thing that popped into my mind when Brian was talking about that is I teach at a fire academy. So I love the fact that you're hitting them at the ground level. Like it's a lot easier to train a tree to grow if you plant it from a seedling. You can't take that 10-year-old tree and try and make it grow in a different direction. It's going to be stuck in its ways. So starting them early, that's awesome. The one thing that I worry about though, and I've heard it from a number of people. Now there are some people who walk out the door and they're like deuces, happier than they ever were on the job. But our retirees, man, you have that structure. You have that every day. In 3 days, I have to go to work. I'm going to work a day. I'm going to have off. I'm going to work a day. Go ahead, 3 days. And they have that structure. They have that coffee in the morning with their guys. They bust balls and whatever. And now 25, 30, however many years you work, you're off the job. You're home with your thoughts, or you're home with your wife who you love very much. I'm not going to tell anybody out there that they don't love their wife, but now you're there and that's your coworker that you're with 70, 80, 90 hours a week. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like those guys need to be included in that, if you will, par check, or that bring them in. There's a lot of departments that at least try. Why don't you do a quarterly retirement breakfast or coffee or cornhole, whatever? Do something where your retirees are in, they can sit and they can reminisce about all the old calls that they ran and stuff like that. And you're going to have guys who don't want anything to do with it. I did my 25. I'm going to move to Boca Raton, Florida, and I'm never going to talk to any of these dudes again. Cool. You're good. We don't have to worry about you. It's the dudes that sit at home and they're not enjoying their retirement because they're stuck with their thoughts, maybe the stuff that they saw, or the fact that they don't have that brotherhood anymore.
We're doing that, Freddie, and we talked about it on episode 75. We have a retiree peer support group. And before anybody retires, I get the list of who's put their papers in, and we actually sit down with them. We take them through some of this rad way of recognizing and helping them to set that groundwork moving forward. And they're always invited back. We include their spouses. And what does this look like at home? Can we offer tools and resources for you? We have a monthly breakfast that our department does that our retirement peer support group puts on. So you are absolutely right. And that's part of some of the foundation when I teach about peer support or building a peer support culture is we hit all aspects. So part of that is the post academy that I talked about. When they come out of academy and we meet with them again, we have a retiree who went through inpatient treatment, who struggled with mental health, who struggled in his marriage, is going to sit down with them as part of post academy and give them that old dog lessons learned, do it better than me, so we're paying it forward. And so you are absolutely right. We are still not forgetting that, and we are building that in addition to our administrative staff, our elected officials, the community we serve have access to our resources. So that's part of the program that we built, is it's all encompassing. And what we did was, I don't like titles. So we took that all out. And what we're doing is we're focusing on the human heart. And so it's a different focus for sure for the retirees, that their identity has now shifted for a lot of people. And so what we do is, once again, it goes back to that, not the financial, emotional, mental, occupational, social, spiritual fit. It goes into the spiritual realm of what is it about you? What makes you tick? Where is your faith and light when you leave the job, so that we can help them and their spouse and their family and keep them connected? And we have that resource. And we have a group of retirees who are trained peer supporters. So we have a retiree peer support team. They can not only reach out to retirees, but look at the value of, Freddie, you're on the job and you don't want to talk to anybody at work because you got something going on. Well, maybe you don't want to talk to anybody at the neighboring jurisdiction because it's a culture issue within your organization. Who better than a retiree who's already lived it, gone through it? You can call them now. And so that's really beautiful. I love that you said that. And we are definitely taking that into account. And those people are now given a true purpose in once they leave for us as a calling and a lifestyle.
Brian.
Yeah, I love that. I love
That's
it.
awesome.
And
yeah, I mean, it's full
I think
circle.
it needs to be mentioned,
from
100
young
times.
to middle to old, spreading awareness and starting it early in the academy. It's all the way to retirees. We have a retiree program. We have a guy, Chris, who, shout out to Chris. He sends out happy birthdays to everybody in the department and includes retirees. And he put together a little coffee with the retirees this last year. And again, Fred, you're right. Some guys not going to have anything to do with it. Right? They may have thought that the city or the department wronged them and they ain't coming back. No, that's fine. Like, not everybody, you can't reach everybody, but we can do what we can do, and we can try our hardest. So maybe a call to action, is just to like put down in the comments of who are you part checking? How often do you do it? How are you helping yourself? What are you doing to help yourself? And we want to read those on the next podcast as part of Snail Mail, and learn what everybody else is doing in different departments in the country. Maybe their departments are doing stuff for them, and maybe they're already doing a lot of the stuff, which I think they are, Greg. And I think they are, guys. Like, I think that we would be overwhelmed and we'd be surprised by how many departments are actually digging their heels into this mental health stuff. I mean, look at like what Kenny Mitchell's doing with Operation Yellow Tape and all his guys. I mean, that's a small piece of the pie on the East Coast there. I'm telling you, there's just people that we don't even know about. And that's what the greatest thing about these podcasts, man, is the awareness and the community that we've grown. So there's your call to action. Put it in the comments. What are you guys doing? We want to hear about it. We want to talk about it. We want to continue the conversation.
And if you're not doing it,
we always ask when I meet with a retiree, I want their personal phone number and I want their personal email, independent of the organization. It goes to a human factor. So even those, Freddie, that are like, nope, deuces, I'm going to Boca Raton, I'm out. My purpose is human connection. I can get their phone number, I can get their email, and we just send them quarterly like check-ins. Hey, we just wanted to say hi, man. See what you're up to. How's Florida? Can we come visit? And it's been overwhelming for even the people who say they don't want to be engaged in the fire service, that we're focusing on the human aspect and having those members of the team just, hey, we just wanted to say hi, not from a fire department perspective. It's on a personal cell phone. It's independent, and we're still doing the check-ins with them. Because if that's a red flag to me, that's the only thing that I would encourage people who are listening is the person who says, nope, I'm good, man. I'm moving to Arizona. I'm good, man. I'm riding off into the sunset. Okay. Maybe we're not completely opening up about how we're honoring and feeling it. And I've been guilty of it too. And so we just like to say, oh yeah, great. Well, we just want to call and say hi and, stay in touch. And by doing that, they're like, oh, that's what it's for. This isn't about HR. It's not about the department. No, this is just us wanting to reach out and say hi and stay in touch with the old school, because we're losing a little bit of that old school. The jokes aren't landing like they used to for us old school guys. So
you gave us us your career for 25 or 30 years. We're not going to forget you. You know what I mean? Like, we want you to stay involved, and we appreciate you.
Yes.
Sorry, I had to run out there, boys. I had to race like a piss horse. Woo! Drink all this water. And anyways, that's freaking so awesome. We've gone over an hour. I really want to do snail mail. Snail mail has become a really important part of the show, where we've been able to engage with our listeners, and I really enjoy doing it. So I don't want to miss out on it today. So let's do some snail mail.
It's snail mail time.
All right. Snail mail. One thing real quick from Social FD. Oh man, screwed myself here. Let's see. Comments. He just gave us a bunch of hearts and flames. And this guy, we can't wait to see him. I think he'll probably be at FDIC, right, guys?
I'm sure he will.
So last week we did an episode on cancer, and we had Scott Jenny from the Firefighter Cancer Support Network on. Amazing episode. It was episode 144. If you haven't listened to it, listen to it. A lot of great information that the network does. I said something on there that I was kind of fact checked on. And so I want to make sure that we address it here. And I got to find it real quick. And I apologize. I think this one's it right here. Yes. Okay. So it was the one where I talked about Tanya Herbert and how she talked about PAHs on, I said something about on the skin and which position had the highest PAH levels. And I was incorrect. So I stand corrected by this guy, Karna Bunker Gear. I'm not sure if he sells bunker gear or if he just works for a bunker gear company or what, but he wrote something actually really good. So I'm going to read it. It's going to take me probably close to a minute to read it, but I feel like it's necessary. Dr. Burgess of Tucson FD and exposure reduction study is a foundational piece of information for the fire service. So he's talking about the research that I was talking about, which what Tanya was bringing up. I do feel like there's a nuance here and it needs to be discussed. PAH metabolites were measured from urine post-structure fire and pre and post interventions. There was no dermal skin measurements taken. So right there, I was wrong. So I had mentioned that it was on their skin, and I basically said that because I thought it was because they didn't have the right PPE on. So it says engineers didn't have the highest average exposure levels measured via urine. In fact, firefighters and captains did due to interior operations, which makes sense, right? This is always the case and is shown across many studies. This study had one engineer, which was a major outlier, which had the highest PAHs measurement in the entire study. I'm not sure why exactly happened there, but he said he probably was in direct contact with the smoke with no SCBA if he had to guess. This doesn't change the fact and the talks message that post-intervention, engineer donning SCBA, for instance, there was a 40% reduction in urinary PAH metabolites, and therefore, yes, we should recommend SCBA's usage on the primary pumper or anyone in hot warm zone if we are operating under ideal golden standard fire ground operations. Now that's basically us, did Freddie get booted out or something?
Oh, he might have had a run.
So he's talking about putting, at the best case scenario, right? We're operating in a vacuum, you know what I mean? And we're all going to have SCBAs on. And even what Scott said from the Firefighter Cancer Support Network, he's like, it's not out of the realm of possibilities. And I think he mentioned Tucson actually is the fire department that actually has, I don't know if they have an SOP, but they have their engineers on air while they're pumping fires, or they're doing some sort of respirator or something. I'm not exactly sure. Probably I'll stand to be corrected again, but that's okay. We're just having a kitchen table conversation, and we start and continue the great conversations about it. And so I wanted to bring that up mainly because I felt like it was it was good to kind of get the real gist out there. Other than that, we didn't have very much engagement on social media. I was really disappointed in Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube about pushing our cancer information out, because I thought it was really good information, but apparently nobody wanted to watch it because we literally got a couple hundred views on either one. That one particular clip that I did with the question got us over 1,000, but other than that, otherwise, that's all I got for snail mail, boys. Unless you guys got anything to add, Greg, that was awesome, man. We really appreciate you and all your wisdom and guidance and love. It was a great podcast. It was great information. We could go for hours and hours, so we'll definitely have you on again and keep continuing the good conversation about mental health and trying to save as many people as we can. Because, it sounds kind of dramatic, like, oh, we're saving people. Yeah, we are saving people. There's guys dying, and that's the fact of it. And so we're not here. We're not, we're not telling men we got to talk about our now we got to talk about our emotions. Yeah, you do. because why? Because guys are dying, and we're not going to stand for it. So what the heck? I don't know what else to say. People want to pound their chest in the comments. Maybe they won't. Maybe we'll get a lot of love in the comments on this episode. We'll see. I doubt it, but I'll be optimistic.
Well, I want to say thank you.
Honor and acknowledge. Honor and acknowledge. You don't got to make it touchy-feely. You honor and acknowledge it. That's taking ownership of it.
Yeah.
Feeling the pain so you can use it for your purpose.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you, if nothing else, because it's always good for us to pause and remind ourselves. So if nothing else, it did us good to sit here and do this. If no one else listens, and I know there will be. I know Colt's going to comment. Colt will chime in on this episode for sure. He's one of our loyal listeners. And this is him. I know Kenny will chime in as well as some other folks. So, but again, I remind Matt of this often, is sometimes the comments may not be there, but the views and the engagement tell us that people are listening. Even when you don't have engagement, they listen. And the silence sometimes speaks for itself. So that's a good thing, like we talked about tonight.
Yeah.
Great to meet you, Greg.
Good.
Glad I got to meet you
guys. Thank you so much for letting me on. You too, Freddie.
Absolutely.
I'm again humbled. I'm very grateful for you guys to have me on here and to be able to share this with you. And like you said, Brian, we do it for ourselves too. We got to take care of ourselves before we take care of anybody else. So I'm very grateful for you guys and what you're doing. You're doing great stuff. Please keep pushing the mission forward. And I'm very thankful to be in partnership with you guys and being able to be on here. And I look forward to doing it again.
Yeah, it's definitely a good piece of the purpose pie, is for us, just like you said, Brian. Very good. That's episode 145 with Greg Rudiger. Where can we find you, Greg? Tell us.
You can find me. I have a website, resilientanotherday.com. You can find me at stay.rad10 on Instagram and TikTok. And I have a podcast co-hosted with the best color guy in the game, Matt Rolfe. It's called the Radcast, and it's on Spotify, Amazon, iHeart, and Apple Podcasts, and you can find us there.
Cool. All right. Yeah. Again, we're going to end this, and we'd like to say at the end of this mental health awareness episode, if you're having trouble or someone that is, you can reach out to any of us on the podcast. If you have a peer support, we encourage you, please make the phone call and just say, hey, I need help. Hey, I need, whatever it is, good, bad, the ugly. But please help yourself. And that's what we're here to say. Very good.
If you need help developing a peer support team, if you're looking for resiliency training, if you're looking to implement these programs, please reach out to me. Please reach out to these guys and let us help you. Because sometimes you can't be a prophet in your own town. And I'm pretty good at making chiefs think it's their idea and finding the money for it. And the programs we have are proven and they work. So please reach out if you're struggling, let us help you.
Love that. Greg, do you remember how to roll us out?
Take it, Gigi.
I'll take it.
Roll it, Gigi.
Before you leave, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and give these firemen a huge thumbs up. Also, make sure you check out thecoolfireman.com for more. Thanks!